Matt has a question about promoting his podcast episodes with images of his celebrity guests. Hi, I'm Gordon Firemark, and this is Asked and Answered, where I help you get answers to your questions so you can move your career and business in the entertainment industry to the next level. The answer to Matt's question right after this. Okay, here's what Matt wants to know. I'm curious about image usage. My podcast is a celebrity talk show, and I always create a title card for the episode using a headshot. Often, these are not provided, and Google is where I find them. I know the general assumption is that if it's of the person you're featuring, you're in the clear, but it's my understanding that that's not always the case because the subject may not be the rights holder to the image. Well, Matt, it's really important that you ask this question. It's a great question, and actually it's pretty rare that the subject of a photograph actually owns the copyright to that photo. You see, under copyright law, it's usually the photographer who's deemed the author who initially owns the images he or she makes. For the celebrity to own those images, the photographer would have to be a formal employee of the celebrity, or the celebrity would have to buy out the copyright. So what usually happens, actually, is the photographer licenses the photo to the subject for specific purposes, and those may or may not cover what you plan to do with it. So there's another point to consider here also, and that is that celebrities, as well as regular citizens in most U.S. states, have a so-called right of publicity, which is essentially the right to control or prevent commercial uses of their name, likeness, voice, or other distinctive and identifying characteristics of their persona. So using an unapproved photo could bring trouble on that front as well. So what I suggest is that you try to identify and get permission from the owner of the image you use. Google search is just a dangerous approach, and that permission ought to promise you that they have the right to use the image of the celebrity that's depicted there. You'd be surprised how often they don't get a model release or something. But the good news is that celebrities almost always have images available just for these kinds of purposes, publicity photos. So ask for one or two when you're booking the person in the first place. The agent, manager, or publisher should have no problem providing it. Ideally then, when the guest signs that release that I'm always harping about, you'll be covered for the photo too. If you're not having them sign a release, make sure you get them to say on the recording or in an email that they do in fact own the rights to the photo they're providing you. But if you're making major changes to that image, that is more than merely just cropping it and those kinds of things, the celebrity is likely going to expect to have a right of approval over the changes. So it pays to run by their representatives before you go live. Now, you don't actually have to ask for approval. Just say, here's the image I'll be using to promote the episode. If they have any issues, they'll certainly let you know. But the other great advantage of this is it gives them what they need to help promote your episode also. So that's it for this session. You can get that free podcast guest release that I mentioned at podcastrelease.com. And if you have any question that you'd like answered here on Asked and Answered, go over to firemark.com/questions. Here's to your success.